Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Honkai Star Rail video, and today we're going to do a should you poll on the Argenti and Silver Wolf banners. So in this video, I'm just going to kind of briefly talk about the banners, who's on them, what the characters do, and if I think these banners are worth pulling on or not, right? So the 4-star characters are going to be the same on both banners. So we're going to have Hanya, Lynx, and Asta. And then on one banner will feature Argenti, the other banner will feature Silver Wolf. So I'll start by talking about the 4-star characters featured here. So Hanya is the new character, and Hanya seems very interesting to me. Hanya is a physical harmony character, right? And when we look at team building, if you want to talk about just team building in general, kind of your main mindset is the two things you want for sure are you want DPS and you want a sustain unit. So a DPS would be like Sela, or in this case, Argenti could be like a DPS, or Jinglu, something like that, right? So you need a big damage dealer, and then you need sustain. Typically, your sustain unit's going to be a heal unit, but preservation units with shields could work, or you could do a combination of two of those, right? And then the third type of character you want on a team would typically be like a buffer, which would be like a harmony character. And then the fourth type would be a debuffer. So like, you know, in an ideal world, you could build a team with all 4 of those roles on one. You don't have to have all of those roles, but I would say DPS and sustain are the two main things you need. And then depending on what you're doing, you would want either units to buff your DPS, or you want debuffers to debuff the enemies, things like that, right? So on this banner, Hanya and Asta are your harmony characters. These are going to be like your buffers, right? Now, I would say Asta isn't the craziest. She's solid, right? And she's going to do basic things like speed and then give you attack as well, but she's a lot more focused on like speed. I would say I would only focus on her if you want to do like some type of fire based team where like you want to have multiple fire units. I think she's good there, but I would say in terms of harmony, there are other better characters I would run, you know, like Ting Yun, Branya, things like that. And even here, Hanya, I actually think Hanya is going to be a very, very nice harmony unit. Hanya increases speed and attack of the party as well, but she can regen skill points. And regenning skill points to me, I think, is a very valuable thing to have, especially if you have a team that struggles with skill point management. So I think Hanya is just going to serve a couple of nice roles in terms of the typical harmony things, your support role, but then being able to regen skill points, I think, is actually really good. And then we have Lynx, who I would argue, Lynx for sure, I would say is the best 4-star healer in the game. And then even when you throw 5 stars into the mix, I'd say Lynx is still one of the best. You know, we just got Hua, who I would say is pretty dang top tier, and then Luocha, I would say, like Hua and Luocha are probably the 2 best healers in the game, but at number 3 might be Lynx actually, and I think Lynx is quite good. I would take Lynx over Bailu actually, and I've used Lynx and Bailu now. Bailu I've used quite extensively, and since kind of getting my Lynx pretty much maxed out, I do think I like Lynx a little bit better. What's so good about Lynx is Lynx has AoE debuff cleansing, which is an incredibly valuable thing to have in this game. And then does typical like big fat heals to the party, and then you get the HP regen as well, so that you're regenning health over time. So I think Lynx is one of the best healers you could ask for in this game for sure. So in terms of 4 stars, I think like Hanya and Lynx are definitely like both like very nice characters, right? Now, typically on these banners, you don't want to go in and summon just for the 4-star. The idea with Star Rail is you're really targeting a 5-star character, and then if you can get good 4 stars on the banner, there are certain ones you might want to really try to get, like E6, for example, right? So let's talk about Argenti, and then we'll go and talk about Silver Wolf here. So what's really nice is in this game, you get to do like trial runs and stuff with the characters. So I've actually got to use like a maxed out Argenti firsthand and kind of get a feel for how he's working. Argenti is an AoE DPS specialist, so he kind of fits that role of really good damage, but he's going to work better in AoE situations. He is also physical damage, by the way. The really unique thing about Argenti is that when you have multiple enemies on the screen, like per enemy, when he does his attacks, he actually regens based on the amount of enemies he's hitting his skill, his ultimate. So what's crazy about him, and his ultimate will hit really hard and can consume extra skill points or extra energy to hit more damage. Not skill points, sorry, just extra energy to do more damage. So what's crazy about Argenti that I was seeing routinely, just when playing the trials and trying them out or whatever with the kit they gave you. When he's in AoE situations, you can be like back to back doing his ultimate. Like you will have ultimate, hit all the enemies, and he will actually like regen so much energy that he gets his ultimate back on the next attack. So you can kind of ultima spam with him, and I think in AoE fights he's going to be looking really good. Now, I don't think he would be my favorite DPS in the game right now, and I definitely think he's skippable, especially if you've already established a DPS. And what I've always said about games like Genshin and Star Rail, you can't just be pulling on every single banner. So, and the other thing is like physical units aren't like the craziest in this game right now. I think Argenti now by far is probably the best physical damage dealer though. So like we're establishing that. But when you look at physical as a team, because when you team build in this game, you kind of want to build around certain elements to fit fights, or if you've got Silverwolf, who we'll talk about in a minute, you actually kind of want to limit the amount of elements you have on a team. But it just depends on your playstyle and what you're going into. Some players might just take 3 or 4 different elements into every fight and just try to hit as many weaknesses as they can, right? The thing that I think is kind of interesting about these banners is if you, say, went all in on both of these, you could actually build a really nice quantum physical team, because you would have Argenti as your main DPS, you would have Hanya as your Harmony support, you would have Silverwolf as your debuffer, and then you would have Lynx as your healer, and you've got 2 physical, 2 quantum. And when you're building a Silverwolf team, I think doing mono or duo colors is like pretty ideal with her. So I think right there you could have like actually a really nice team. But in terms of damage dealers, I would say if you've already got like Sela or Jinglu or Imbibitor or Lune or whatever, like any of these top tier damage dealers that have already released, you definitely can skip Argenti. And I'd say the other negative with him is in single target, I don't know how good he's going to look in a single target fight. And when you think of like the really tough fights in the game, right, you're typically fighting big bosses that, sure, they'll have like minions and stuff with them for a little bit, but the minions typically go down fairly quick. And then for like a lot of the grindier parts of the fight, when you're going single target, Argenti I think might feel a little underwhelming there. So that's the other reason I don't think you really need to go all in on him unless you're like a new player and you're desperate to like get your main DPS rolling. But I think even you could get by with some 4-star characters for now and wait for maybe a better DPS in the future. I just don't like the idea of a character who really specializes in AoE when, like I said, big bosses are a lot of times they're going to be single target for a lot of the fight. I would rather have a character like Sela who's more of a single target specialist, because you can get through trash waves of like AoE stuff, but there's always going to be something that's big and beefy with a lot of hit points, and typically it's only going to be 1 to 2 targets that are really big and beefy. So that's kind of my thoughts on Argenti. I don't think you really have to grab him. Silverwolf, on the other hand, is a much different story. I think Silverwolf is a must-get character for everybody. I think Silverwolf is a character that everybody should have in their box. And Silverwolf is insane because of how she opens up team building and just makes your gameplay more efficient. Silverwolf is a character like that the moment she went away the first time, this is her second time around, by the way, she was around the first time, and I didn't really understand her kit or really look at her that seriously, because I had just gotten done like going crazy on like a Sela banner, and I think I summoned for the banner after Sela, and I was just tapped out, like just not ready to summon, so I didn't even look at her. And then after the fact, I realized what she did, and I heavily regretted not getting her. So you will see some summon videos on my channel of me going very hard for Silverwolf, because she's a character I think everyone must have. So what's so good about her? Well, first, she fills a really important role that a lot of team comps will want, which is a defense shredder or a debuffer. So she can put really nice defense downs on the enemy. She has a little bit of randomness to her kit where she can put random types of debuffs down. But really, her biggest asset is that she can actually apply different weaknesses to the enemy. So for those of you maybe newer to the game, the way it works is the enemies will appear, and above their head you'll see different colored symbols, which is different typing weaknesses. The only way to break enemies is to hit their type weakness. Well, what Silverwolf allows you to do is you can do her skill, and her skill will actually randomly take one of the elements that your team contains that is not on the enemy and apply it to them. So it basically means that you can run, so the way you traditionally have to play this game is you go into a fight that's very hard, and you kind of have to pick and choose characters of certain elements because you want the ability to break the enemies. Silverwolf kind of takes that out of, pretty much takes that aside and says, you don't need to worry about that. You can run any team color combination you want with Silverwolf on it, and you know you're going to be able to basically put that weakness on any enemy and be able to break enemies with elements you normally wouldn't be able to, which is insanely busted. And you can really make your teams efficient by running mono or dual color teams. So obviously the mono color team you'd have to run would have to be only quantum, because she is a quantum character. But you could run a mono quantum team, and Lynx would be like your main healer to do that, because Lynx is quantum. So a typical team would be like Sela, Silverwolf, Lynx. That would be kind of like your core. And then that other slot you could kind of fill in with whatever quantum character you want. I don't remember her name, but we very recently got a 5-star like preservation quantum character that I think is pretty good, that I think a lot of people are using. But you could just take a 4-star quantum character if you want to have that. The reason why running a mono team is so efficient is because doesn't matter what enemy I'm going against, if they don't have quantum weakness, she's guaranteed to put quantum on them, because that's the only element from your team it can pull and put on there, right? Dual teams, I think, are also very effective. So as I mentioned before, you could do, if you're summoning just off of this banner alone, right, you could do a double physical, double quantum setup, and then, you know, odds are enemies could have one of the two elements, so then you're guaranteed to get the one that you don't have. Or if they're missing both elements, you're at least going to put one of them on, and then Silverwolf, after she gets another turn, can apply the second one. So like really, you know, when you've got like a big boss or a tough fight you're trying to do, being able to put the weakness of your team, no matter what it is, on them is just insanely busted, and is like something I feel like every player should have. So I would say yes, Silverwolf is a must summon type of banner. I highly recommend, whether you're a new account or a veteran, I would say she's definitely a type of character you can go for. So I'm going all in on Silverwolf. Look forward to a couple of summon videos up on my channel. Let me know if you're going to summon on these banners or not. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.